the 1980 SEC Football Preview, presented by General Motors Parts Division, who would like to remind you to keep that great GM feeling with genuine GM parts. The 1980 SEC Football Preview features the University of Alabama, the Crimson Tide, coached by Paul Bear Bryant. Auburn University, War Eagle, coached by Doug Barfield. The University of Florida, the Gators, coached by Charlie Pell. The University of Georgia, the Bulldogs, coached by Vince Dooley. The University of Kentucky, the Wildcats, coached by Fran Kersey. Louisiana State University, the Tigers, coached by Jerry Stovall. The University of Mississippi, the Rebels, coached by Steve Sloan. Mississippi State University, the Bulldogs, coached by Emory Bullard. The University of Tennessee, the Volunteers, coached by Johnny Majors. And Vanderbilt University, the Commodores, coached by George McIntyre. Hi, I'm Bill Flemming. Once again, it's my pleasure to be your host as we preview the upcoming 1980 Southeastern Conference football season. We thought that we would come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to begin the preview this year, since this is the home of the Crimson Tide, the defending national champions, also the defending champions of the Southeastern Conference. It's here that all the hard work takes place. The scene is not unlike any other practice field in the country, except that here in Tuscaloosa, everything is under the watchful eye of Coach Paul Bear Bryant atop his famous tower. There he stands, letting no details slip by. We asked Bear to give us an appraisal of the 1980 SEC race as he sees it.
Well, actually, I think the conference this year will be stronger than it was a year ago. I think we leveled off. I think maybe last year that we kind of dominated the conference, but it's not that way this year. I think most any team could beat the other. If I had to pick a team to win the conference, based on personnel, I'd pick Auburn. I think Tennessee should be up in there close by, and of course I don't keep up with teams that we don't play as closely as we do with teams we do play. And of course Georgia and Kentucky, I haven't paid much attention to them, although we play Kentucky this year, and Georgia did a great job of coaching last year, and they fought right down to the wire. I think Mississippi State has a lot of football players, and I don't know, LSU's unknown quality now. But I think anyone can beat anyone else on a given Saturday. And our own team, I don't think there's any way we could be as strong as we were last year, because we lost from end to end on offense. We lost everyone, and we lost everyone down the middle, the center, quarterback, fullback. But I think we could have a representative team. I think we could have a team that can compete, and that's what we're going to try to do.
The Crimson Tide competed so well in '79 that they won their third straight conference title, their eighth in the last 9 years. In a moment, we'll begin our preview of the Southeastern Conference season of 1980. First, this from General Motors Parts Division.
In just a jiffy, I can help make your GM car run cleaner, run longer, and save gasoline.
How, Mr. Goodrich?
Well, maybe it's time for a new set of genuine GM filters. To clean the oil, to clean the gasoline, to clean the 10,000 gallons of air your engine mixes with every gallon of gas.
How, Arnie?
And there's still time to check your wipers.
That great GM feeling. That was fast, Mr. Goodrich, with genuine GM parts.
I can get your GM car or truck back on the road fast, even if it needs an engine overhaul.
How, Mr. Goodrich?
GM's Target Master 350 engine. It's a new engine, not a rebuild. It's available from your GM dealer.
Brand new? Wow!
So before you go to the expense of rebuilding an old engine, look at a new Target Master first.
Keep that great GM feeling. Fast action, Mr. Goodrich, with genuine GM parts.
Dramatic moments in football are often provided by the kicking specialists. They can make the difference between victory and defeat, and can make a crowd delirious with joy. At Georgia, the SEC's leading place kicker returns for his senior year. In '79, Rex Robinson hit a perfect 21 out of 21 extra points. It all accounted for 66 points. By happy coincidence, the Bulldogs also have the conference's leading punt returner back. His name, Scott Werner, who accounted for 200 yards a year ago. He truly is a specialist who made his mark in '79 in all-conference selection. The SEC can boast some of the hardest hitters in the country in college football. E.J. Jr. of Alabama would certainly head the list of those players whose job it is to stop a play before it can start. The name of their game is sack the quarterback. No wonder the Crimson Tide led the nation in defense in '79. Number 94 of LSU is Lyman White, considered to be one of the best defenders in the SEC. He and Benji Thibodeau will make their presence felt at 80 for the Tigers. Here's White not only making the stop, but causing a fumble and getting the ball. Number 86 of Vandy is Joe Staley, who surprised everyone a year ago. As a freshman walk-on, he worked his way into a starting role. He and Phil Swindoll, number 81, provide a good nucleus for the Vandy defensive unit this season. At Tennessee, 230-pound defensive tackle Brad White returns for his senior year. The Volunteers are mighty happy this big fellow from Idaho found his way to the campus in Knoxville. At Georgia, they have number 61, Ed Weaver, a 270-pound package who loves to hit. Number 66 of Auburn is Frank Warren, 6'5", 267. He's been one of the mainstays of the War Eagle defense for the past 2 years. Big moment for him here, causing a safety. Chalk up 2 points for the defense. Another outstanding SEC freshman a year ago, number 84, James Otis of Ole Miss. And the Rebs also are counting on Mike Fountain, a senior with lots of savvy. At Mississippi State, number 98 belongs to Ty Keys, an imposing defender at 6'7", 255 pounds. More than one ball carrier has met his wrath. Florida has a defensive duo worthy of an opponent's respect, number 72, Doc Lucky. And he is joined by number 50, Yancey Sutton, a devastating tackler. Number 60 of LSU, George Attia, is about as mean as he looks. Once in his grasp, it's hard to move very far. Number 90 at Alabama is Thomas Boyd, who earned first-team all-conference honors with plays like these in '79. Here's a perfect example of how to defend against the option. Joe Staley of Vanderbilt shows textbook form. Number 51 of Florida is David Little, who makes his presence felt when he's in on a stop. And number 57 of the Gators is Tim Golden, a coach's dream, strong as an ox, and versatile enough to assume a different role, that of being a pass defender. The Gators' pass defense ranked second only to Alabama last year. Tennessee's Danny Martin, number 29, makes one of the year's outstanding thefts, playing his opponent and the football just right. Number 37 of Kentucky is Greg Long. Now here's what every defensive back hopes for, to grab the ball and convert it into 6 points. When it comes to the honor of the most difficult interception of the '79 season, number 22, Chris Williams of LSU, certainly has to get high marks. A juggling, spectacular catch in the end zone against USC. And when it comes to quick thinking, Vandy's Phil Swindoll gets a pat on the back for his interception and then a lateral to teammate Andrew Coleman. A look now at a miraculous grab by Scott Werner of Georgia. A great example of the kind of effort it takes to become an all-conference selection to be given All-America consideration. In 1980, look for the name of Scott Werner to be very prominent in the defensive statistics of college football, as will his teammate Jeff Hipp, who had 6 interceptions a year ago. Not only did Alabama lead the Southeastern Conference in defense in '79, but the Tide led the nation as well. Defensive back Tommy Wilcox was one of the reasons. He was so impressive with his running and his natural football instincts that Coach Bear Bryant is still considering him a possibility for quarterback in 1980. But certainly the defense doesn't want to lose him. Jim Bob Harris of Alabama provided one of the great moments in that Sugar Bowl victory. He snatched the ball away from a Razorback receiver at the goal line. The gun went off, and the game was over. Alabama's convincing 24-9 win over the Razorbacks was a tribute to the defense as much as anything else. Their pride in being the toughest in the nation was evident throughout the year, and will make this year's defenders just as anxious to perpetuate that record. Next, a look at Swift Legs, the runners of the SEC. The Bulldogs of Mississippi State were ranked in the top 15 teams in the nation in rushing offense in 1979, and 1980 promises to be another year of solid running for the Bulldogs. Working at quarterback number 12, Tony Black, who shared the role with Dwayne Brown a year ago. Black is a strong runner with good size and excellent speed. The Bulldogs also have a block-busting kind of fullback at number 42, Fred Collins, who at 240 pounds can either rip holes in the opposing line or go through them with unusual speed for such a big man. One of the biggest surprises of the 1979 season was sophomore quarterback John Forcade of Ole Miss. He wound up the regular season as the SEC's leader in total offense, accounting for more than 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. Ole Miss fans are also singing the praises of Buford McGee, who broke into the lineup as a freshman a year ago. In his first game, he accounted for 160 yards, scored a touchdown the first time he had his hands on the ball. However, an injury in the third game forced him to the sidelines. He has been awarded another year of eligibility, so he'll be around for 4 more seasons. McGee was in the same incoming freshman group as another fine runner, number 38, Kenny Hooper. With the abilities of McGee and Hooper, no wonder the folks at Oxford are highly optimistic about the 1980 football season. At Vanderbilt, quarterback Van Heflin returns for his senior year as a 3-year letterman with plenty of football know-how and a threat anytime he handles the ball. He accounted for 8 touchdowns and more than 1,000 yards in total offense in 1979. The Commodores are going to switch Terry Potter from his tailback spot to fullback for the 1980 season. Potter's durability and his all-out effort on every play make him the ideal choice to replace Vandy's great Frank Mordecai as their top rusher. For sheer speed and breakaway ability, Auburn's James Brooks has to rank with the best in the nation. He led the SEC in rushing and in all-purpose running. In that department, his average was better than 160 yards a game. His value to the Tigers simply cannot be overstated. He'll be the heart of their offense. If you can't stop Brooks, you're not going to stop Auburn. Georgia's Matt Simon is also one of those SEC runners who can make it so quickly into the secondary that the defense hardly has time to react. And unless Simon is on the ground, don't ever think he's stopped. Just watch. Kentucky's Chris Jones was another one of the SEC runners from that bumper freshman crop of a year ago. He can fly. And with Sean Donegan also back, the Wildcats' rushing game will be impressive. At LSU, Hokie Gaijan is not perhaps the true breakaway threat, but you'll be hard-pressed to find a runner with more intensity. Every time he carried the ball a year ago, he averaged better than 4 yards, and his strength is obvious. And so with Gaijan and the return of number 13, Jude Hernandez, the Tigers are more than confident they'll be able to move the ball on the ground. One of the questions they have in Tuscaloosa is how well quarterback Don Jacobs will be able to run this season after surgery on his knee. There wasn't any question how well he could move last year. If there is a problem at quarterback, Alan Gray and Tommy Wilcox will both be ready to go. Wilcox, by the way, was a former top high school quarterback in the state of Louisiana. Number 33, Billy Jackson, returns to a backfield that should be just as potent as it was in '79 when it was 4th in the nation in rushing. With Jackson and with number 42, Major Ogilvy, supplying the 1-2 punch, the Tide feels it has the tandem combination second to none in the country. And Ogilvy can do it all. He can go inside, up and over, or to the outside, where he was nearly unstoppable on the deep pitch-outs. Opposing players marvel at his balance, his ability to keep his straight-ahead speed despite taking lots of hard shots along the way to the goal line. Major Ogilvy was a unanimous selection of the All-SEC team a year ago. And barring injury, he's certain to repeat in 1980 and will be up for All-America honors as well. At Tennessee, a runner with all-conference potential is number 32, Hubert Simpson. Based on his '79 showing, Simpson ranks right up there with the best of them in the rushing department of the SEC. He compiled a nifty 5 yards per carry average. He scored 6 touchdowns. And when you watch him run, you can't help but feel that here is a runner who could really catch fire and have a sensational season. So, mark down the name of Hubert Simpson, who wears the same number as his namesake, O.J. Volunteer fans would love to see him blossom just as O.J. did in his senior year. Next, we'll take a look at the air lanes of the SEC. When Ole Miss takes the field this fall, Rebel fans know they're going to see a lot of passing. Quarterback John Forcade led the conference in passing yardage, in passes completed, and in percentage in '79. His favorite target is number 30, Ken Toller, who had a great year a year ago, and in his senior season gives every indication he'll be one of the best in college football. His average gain per pass a year ago was an astounding 19.2 yards. With Toller at the split end spot and number 16 Billy Wise back for his senior year at tight end, and with Forcade pumping the ball with a 58% accuracy mark, Ole Miss will be feared in the air lanes in 1980. It's pretty hard to move into the quarterback spot as a freshman, but Terry Henry of Kentucky proved in '79 that he has an arm worthy of mention. Anybody who can pinpoint passes like that is going to be heard from. His freshman teammate, Chris Jones, gives the Wildcats that threat out of the backfield. Henry and Jones could be a passing combination that will delight Wildcat fans for the next 3 years. At Georgia, quarterback Buck Ballou saw action as a freshman in '78. He was a starter for the majority of last season as a sophomore, and he teamed up with freshman Norris Brown a number of times. But the man who led the Bulldogs in receiving was number 24, Lindsey Scott. He pulled in 34 passes in 11 games. And on this particular occasion, introduced Bulldog fans to one of his choreographic creations entitled The End Zone Twirl. Auburn, like Alabama, is a more rushing-oriented team than a passing one. Yet the Tigers did get 9 of their 31 touchdowns in '79 by the air lanes. Charles Thomas, no doubt, will be at the helm, tossing to Byron Franklin, who is one of the most dangerous flankers in the Southeastern Conference. One school where the forward pass is a way of life is LSU, conference leader in passing offense. The Tigers have a solid receiver in number 21, Tracy Porter. And in Orlando McDaniel, who specializes in the long ones. Time after time, he gets behind enemy defenders. The biggest problem the Tigers face is who will be tossing the football with both quarterbacks Woodley and Ensminger gone from the scene in 1980. chances are the sophomore Alan Risher will be the man. At Vanderbilt, Whit Taylor posted a fine 57% completion record last year. And in Joey Smith, whose real name is Flavius, number 82, he has a reliable receiver who was able to average 11 yards a catch and 3 touchdowns last year. Probably no school in the nation utilizes its tight ends better than Alabama. At 6'3", 230 pounds, number 87, Bart Kraut, fits the Tide mold perfectly. He's an excellent blocker and a receiver who can hang on to the football regardless of how hard he gets whacked. Kraut's counterpart at Tennessee is number 85, Reggie Harper. He's also 6'3", and a rugged sort of a guy who can take the hits too. Harper just could turn out to be the best tight end in the Southeastern Conference in 1980. The Vols also have a receiver who fits into the category of what one would call nifty. Number 28, Anthony Hancock, a sophomore a year ago, who wound up leading the entire conference in passing touchdowns and in the most yards per catch. Not only could Hancock go deep, but on the short passes, he seemed to squirt through defenders, coming up with remarkable runs. In all, he scored 4 TDs and had an average per catch of a little better than 20 yards. Considering the rough treatment he got from some of his teammates after scoring a touchdown, one has to wonder if he'll be as eager to get into the end zone in 1980. Number 88, Marty McDowell of Mississippi State, is one of that school's all-time great receivers. He returns for his final year with the Bulldogs. It's difficult to really measure what a player like McDowell means to a team. His mere presence in the lineup causes opponents to map a defensive strategy in order to try to stop him. And if the ball is anywhere in his vicinity, he's sure to get to it. With the emphasis on running the football, the Bulldogs know that McDowell is a weapon they can call on at any time and he'll deliver. So you might just see him more as a ball carrier this year. And after a spectacular one-handed grab like this, it's sort of nice to get a friendly pat on the back from a sideline admirer. Well done, Marty. In quarterback Larry Ochab, the Gators of Florida have a man who can throw, and in Chris Collinsworth, they have a man who can catch. Collinsworth is the SEC's leading returning receiver from the '79 season. He simply is an unbelievably talented player whose concentration on the football makes it nearly impossible for an opponent to keep him from getting it. You couldn't cover him any better here than this man does one-on-one, and yet somehow Collinsworth comes up with the reception. The Gators also believe they've come up with the find of the season in freshman Chris Faulkner, a 235-pound tight end, who equaled the best conference mark of 4 touchdowns and who averaged better than 11 yards per catch. Faulkner is the perfect secondary receiver if double coverage goes to Collinsworth. It did a year ago, and no doubt will this year. And so, when you talk about the air lanes of the SEC, don't ever believe for a moment that Gators can't fly. In a moment, a salute to the graduated greats of the Southeastern Conference. After this message from General Motors Parts Division.
Tommy here is a big responsibility, so I take him to Mr. Goodwrench, too.
Mr. Goodwrench stands for your GM dealer's commitment to improving customer care at over 6,000 participating dealerships. And now General Motors dealers are offering both infant and child love seats.
Love seats were developed by GM safety engineers. They're strong and comfortable. Right, honey?
My seat's for Victor.
Keep that great GM feeling
With Mr. Goodwrench.
and genuine GM parts.
Want to know 4 ways to help get better gas mileage?
Tell us, Mr. Goodwrench.
First, air up. Keeping tires at recommended pressure can help save up to a gallon of gas per tank. Next, tune up. That can help save up to 2 gallons.
Wow!
Then, clean up. Get new filters. And slow up. You can go farther on a tank full.
Keep that great GM feeling.
Thanks and thankful, Mr. Goodwrench.
With genuine GM parts.
A special tribute now to 6 senior players from the SEC who were singled out for their achievements during the 1979 season. the SEC Player of the Year, Joe Cribbs, running back from Auburn. From Tennessee, All-America defensive back, Roland James. From Ole Miss, All-America punter, Jim Miller. And from Alabama, 3 All-America players, offensive guard Jim Bunch, center Dwight Stevenson, who was also the recipient of the conference's Jacobs Blocking Trophy, and defensive back Don McNeil. We'd like to add our words of congratulations to those players for creating so many memorable football moments. They were a vital part of the excitement and the color that makes up a football weekend in the SEC. Of course, there were many other memories as well. Now, this is Bill Flemming on behalf of General Motors Parts Division, thanking you very much for being with us, hoping you'll be among the millions who'll be watching football in the Southeastern Conference in 1980. The 1980 SEC Football Preview has been presented by General Motors Parts Division, who would like to remind you to keep that great GM feeling with genuine GM parts.